had a chance to look at that, and obviously not the same performance you got against the Cowboys. What went wrong defensively, especially in the second half?
Well, where do you begin? There's, in football, obviously, as you guys know, man, it's hard to pinpoint one area sometimes. Sometimes it's lack of pass rush. Sometimes it's poor coverage. Sometimes it's the linebackers not hitting their gaps. It's a combination of a lot of things. Defensively, just like the running game we talk about all the time, it takes everybody to be on the same page and be in concert. The same thing with defense. The gap's got to be secure. The rush lane's got to be up the field, and the gap's got to be secure and keep Teddy Bridgewater in a pocket. And we lost contain a couple times, lost coverage a couple times, and obviously our running game gaps were jeopardized a few times. So it wasn't one guy, unfortunately. We would have been able to fix that. It was more than one. It was a combination of a lot of guys.
The play on the two-point conversion looked like he had two options, and they were both covered. What was the dynamics of that play, and what was the decision-making tree there?
Yeah, that was we lined up in a little slot formation motion to try to get Deshaun one-on-one against the corner, and they ended up playing zone, and so Deshaun was covered, and then Pierre had the one-on-one on the backside, and he kind of got grabbed a little bit and didn't get open, and by the time he got back to Pierre to give him a chance to catch it, ball came out. They had a good pass rush on. It was not the greatest choice of two-point plays, but they had a good pass rush and good coverage.
On defense against Dallas, you guys had a really aggressive attack, really went after the quarterback. This time you're going against a rookie quarterback. It seemed like they scaled it back a little bit. What did you all see that made you feel like that was a better game plan than bringing the pressure on a young guy?
They tried to bring some pressure a little bit, just different kinds of pressure. They brought some five-man pressures. They overloaded some sides a couple times. They brought some cover zeros down in the red zone a few times we did. So I wouldn't say it was totally a passive game plan. They did try to mix up some coverages and see if Teddy could read them and make the throws, and hopefully our four-man rushes would get home. Unfortunately, in the first half, our four-man rushes got home. Second half, they didn't get home, and we lost contain and let Teddy out of the pocket, and he found some guys down the field. And then, in the red zone, we did try some zero pressures, and he drifted back and hit a crossing route to Jennings, I think, on one for a first down at the 6, and then they hit a running play up the gut on one of them for a touchdown. So they did try. They just were very effective in whatever they called seemed to be working there in the second half, the last two drives.
Jay, going back to the two-point conversion, if you see that look that you have a play mostly for man and it's zone, can Robert audible out of that one?
No, the way they play their zones, we knew that one of the corners would be in a man technique, and that was Pierre's corner on the other side. We're trying to get lined up a slot, try to get Deshaun over there and work Deshaun one-on-one, and then if he was covered, we're going to come back to Pierre. So it was a nice two-man concept. It's just they covered it very well. They kind of latched on to Pierre, and he couldn't get off, and by the time he would have gotten off, that's when the ball came out.
Think of Robert after going back and watching the film?
Robert did some good things. Obviously, when we give up the lead and he comes back down and leads a drive to score and take the lead, and then we give up the lead again, and then he leads another drive to go down and score and take the lead. And two-point play wasn't very good on my part or schematically, but I think there's some promise there. Over the course of a football game, I'm sure there's a lot of plays that he wishes he had back. There's some pocket issues where he stepped into pressure a few times, and maybe he could have run for more yards or whatever. That's just something we just got to continue to watch and monitor and try to coach him. But overall, for his first game back in quite some time, I think he did some good things that really ultimately should have helped us win that football game.
Jay, there are a lot of people calling, obviously, for changes on the defensive side of the balls, most specifically with Haz. What do you say about that, and do you plan on making any kind of adjustments to how you guys have been doing things as a coaching staff over these next 2 weeks with Buck?
We got to look at our scheme, but obviously, against Tennessee and against Dallas, we were very good. I gave Hazlitt one of the game balls against Dallas in our team meeting. I thought he did a great job against Dallas, and there's some things we're doing well, but you have to understand, you lose your number one corner in D. Hall, and you lose your pass rusher Rackbo, and you're playing with a rookie corner and Keenan Robinson's a Mike and a rookie outside linebacker. There's going to be some lumps to be had. A lot of these guys are going through some learning processes, and but I think from a schematic standpoint, we could have done some things better, obviously. But from a player standpoint, they could have done some things better too. We could have had better contain on the rush lanes. We lost contain, and that's inexcusable for the player standpoint. But we could have called different coverages, yes. But overall, you can't point your finger at one person. You can't point your finger at one coach when you have give up those 2 drives in the second half. I think it's a total team effort, and I'm included in that.
Coach, going into the bye week at 3-6 as opposed to 4-5, does it at all change your direction moving forward with the season, or what you're looking for out of players, or do you still have the same goals?
Same goals. We really want to look for guys that compete every day, and we're not going to stop competing. We're going to preach competition every day, and we're never going to give up. We got to claw ourselves out of this thing, and we got a good group of guys. I don't feel like the effort was in doubt in the game. I just think the execution wasn't very good in key situations when we had chances to put the game away, had chances to get stops, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 8. We had a chance to get a 2-point play. We had a chance to put the game away in the first half. It just didn't happen. But I want to stick with our guys. I want to see them fight their way out of it, see who the competitors are, and try to get this thing turned around.
Jay, on that, the 3 consecutive sacks, on the 3rd sack, Robert was there holding the ball for almost about 5 seconds there. That's been his problem for some time, is him holding the ball and not being decisive. How do you guys work on that? How do you try to get it through his head that, maybe things aren't open, but at some point you have to make a decision because those guys are going to come get you? Yeah,
you talk about it all the time. You got to have a clock in your head as a quarterback, and sometimes he gets locked in somewhere, and by the time he comes off to a secondary receiver, he feels the pocket closing in on him and doesn't have time to move, and we can help him. The line can help him a little bit. I can help him with the drops of the quarterback to maybe get it out quicker or what have you, but for the most part, he just got to continue to play and learn that and play with that feel in the pocket. Sometimes that comes naturally, sometimes it doesn't, but it's something that he's going to have to fight through and abort mission when he has to, and step up and throw it away when he has to, and get it out of his hands when he has to. But it's hard to coach that. It's hard to simulate that on the practice field, and it's just something he's got to go through.
Robert looked quite stiff and sore when he got down from the podium yesterday. He also stayed on the turf a few times. How is he physically, and how did that ankle hold up? And Logan Paulson, we just saw walking out of here on crutches.
Yeah, Logan has plantar, is it fasciitis? Yeah, something like that. He's got a chance to go against Tampa Bay. And then, when you play quarterback, you take some hits in the game, you're going to be sore. He's got a little soreness. His ankle held up great. He got a really low hit early in the game. It was knee, ankle area on the same leg, and he limped around for a minute, but it went away right away, so he was fine. I think from a physical standpoint, he will be sore. He did take some shots, but there's no reason for concern.
When you look back at the secondary, it seemed like there was some miscommunication. What did you find out from looking back at the film and figuring out what was going on there?
There were some miscommunications.
So that was,
yeah.
but I mean, it seems like it's kind of ongoing. Is that just the youth that you lead to that, or?
Yeah, sometimes it's the youth. Just when they line up in formation, emotion, and the communication doesn't take place when they're switching coverages. Sometimes safety, sometimes the corner. That can't happen, though. This is pro football, and these guys practice long enough. They watch enough film where that can't happen. And whether you're a second-year corner or first-year corner, we have 2 veteran safeties back there that should be taking charge, and we can't have that. But got to get that communicated, because that happened, I think, twice in the game.
I guess it's a matter with Robert and his sliding, darned if you do, darned if you don't. But 3rd and 20, when he's scrambling and decides to slide short of the first down, is that a case where you would want him to fight for those yards?
Yeah, that would be. But, the play before he got hit in the chest, and, it was a little bit sore. So I think his running didn't have the same burst that he normally would have had. So I think he felt the players around him and got down. But definitely 3rd and 20 with the game on the line, you would like him to try to fight for some extra yards. But being that he was sore from the play before, I think he was a little winded and, sore in the chest, so he chose to get down. But we still had 2 great opportunities on 4th and 6 to get it, and unfortunately didn't work out.
Not to beat a dead horse here, but when you look back at the defensive effort, and you said that the effort was there, when you see certain guys in coverage, when specifically if you look at Brandon Merriweather, against Dallas he was in the box blitzing a lot. Yesterday he was in coverage, and that doesn't seem to be a strength of his. How do you assess that?
Well, he was playing some coverage last week. He did a good job in coverage, actually. He made some good plays. Tight end had a great catch on the sidelines where he had 2 feet in, but Brandon had a couple knockaways, and he can cover. When you play some of these blitz 5-man fire zones, he's got to cover. We blitz the linebackers instead of him, and we just didn't get enough pressure with our linebackers yesterday for whatever reason. Usually they do a better job blitzing, Keenan and Perry both, but didn't work out. They did a good job with their blitz pickups, and when you do blitz 5 guys, you have to have your safety in coverage, and Brandon was in coverage. He did actually pretty good, except for one time, I think.
Jay, when the season opened, there were obviously major questions about what sort of quarterback you have and what's the state of the pass rush and the defensive backfield. I think those were three areas everybody was wondering what we'd see. So after 9 games, what have you learned about each one? Have you learned as much as you thought you would have learned by this point? What's clear,
it's
what's
hard
unclear?
too, because you look at the defensive backs, number one, and your key guy gets hurt, D'Angelo, and luckily we got Breland in the 4th round, and he had to play a little bit sooner than later, and Tracy Porter, who's another key acquisition, has been hurt pretty much the whole time. So and then we got Merriweather and Clark, and we were hoping Philip Thomas and Rambo and some other guys were going to step up, and we've chose to go with Clark and Merriweather. But from a secondary standpoint, with the injuries, obviously not as good as we thought maybe, but I am happy to see Breland emerge and Emerson continue to get better because those are 2 corners that can play here for a long time, and that's a hard position to find moving forward. From a safety standpoint, Merriweather's done some good things, missed the first 2 games obviously from some play in a preseason, which I don't want to talk about. And Clark has been what we thought he would be. He's a veteran guy who knows the game and is a great leader, but obviously, there's some things that, he lacks right now at the age, but he's still playing at a pretty good level for us. Pass rush-wise, Kerrigan started out pretty good, and then Arakpo gets hurt, and we have Hatcher, and Hatcher is playing pretty well, but he's not playing at the dominant level we need him to play at. When we have 3rd down and 5 and 6 and 7, we need him to get pressure in the quarterback's face consistently, and that hasn't been the case. That's not to say he's been playing poorly. It's just we need him at a dominant level. That's why we brought him here from Dallas. And then obviously Kerrigan has done some good things, and then Murphy's just got to continue to grow. He's a young kid, and he's had some good he had a chance to have 3 or 4 sacks yesterday, and just missed a couple of them, and took the inside route when he shouldn't have a couple times. And he's going to get there. He's a very talented kid. He's just got to continue to play himself. And then the quarterback, what can you say? You start out with Robert, you give him all the reps in training camp, and he hurts his ankle, and then he misses 5 or 6 weeks. We get a good look at Kirk. We get a good look at Colt, and now it's back to Robert. So the jury's still out on that position, but we feel good about Robert's progress so far, and we just got to continue to build and see how he does from week to week to week, and hopefully we can see there at the end of the season. That's what we have to see, and that's what we have to find out.
Coach, going into the bye week and given everything that has happened up until now, wonder if you would give your team a grade where they are now and where you would like them to be. And then my second question is, how are you physically feeling after yesterday in the bus accident?
Well, when we're 3 and 6, the grade can't be very good because we're judged on wins and losses. From a personality standpoint, from an effort standpoint, from a human being standpoint, I give them an A. I think we got a lot of good guys in our locker room, so that's a good thing. The bad thing is we don't get credit for being good guys. We get credit for wins and losses, and that's not good enough. So the grade is 3 and 6, that's a lower half of the league, bottom half of the league, so that's probably a D or a F plus maybe. So from a football standpoint, it's not very good, and we're only judged by wins and losses. But I do feel good moving forward that we have the right type of guys in here. We just got to play better and coach better and continue to compete. That's what I'm looking for. Competitors, guys that compete, and then physically I'm okay. My neck's a little stiff, but that was one unique way to start the day, that's for sure. We're 4 tire rotations from driving off a cliff, but we're okay. Thanks for asking.
Does that stand as well with players, or did anybody get worse overnight or feel worse this morning?
I think everybody's okay. Silas Red's the only one. He went to an MRI, and he had no structural damage, so he's okay from the accident. There was a couple bumps. Guys bumped their knees and stuff like that, but everybody seems to be okay.
I know it's not the highest priority on your chart right now. You still haven't won a replay challenge this year. I know on some of them we look at it and scratch our heads too, but is there anything you go back and look at? Do you send any of them to the league office?
Yeah, we send them all to the league office, and we're not supposed to question them up here. Referee's got a tough job, but I don't know why. I don't know what the deal is. I thought that for sure was an interception, but all I can do is challenge them, man. I'm going to start begging here pretty soon, man. I'm 0-8. Please just reverse one for me. Good golly. But I thought for sure that was an interception.
Jay, I know you said Hatcher yesterday you thought was healthy and not injury. Hatcher, was no injury situation there. But what is the reason you think he hasn't played at the level that you need him to at this point?
Well, it could be a couple. It's a combination of things. we got to have better consistent pressure on the edges. You know what I mean? He's an inside player, and if we can get the pressure on the edges, the quarterback to step up, that's when he's at his best. And sometimes some of the games that we're doing, we're not getting off of them good enough. And then there's one-on-ones, we're probably not creating enough one-on-ones for him, perhaps. But when he does have the one-on-ones, he's not consistently winning. So it's a combination of things. I'm not saying that he's playing poorly by any stretch. His effort is outstanding. He's a great team leader out here. Just not the dominant player that we need him to be. But that's not a negative necessarily. That is just, we just need a little bit more from him, and we need a little bit more from everybody. When you're 3-6, you need more from everybody, coaches included.
Jay, through 9 games, it's clear, obviously you guys are not scared to go deep. You've done it several times, and having Deshaun helps, obviously. But can you talk about doing that and having that in your game plan and how it's worked for you so far?
Yeah, it's been pretty good. I had a couple other great opportunities to hit them deep. Also, it might have been pressure related where we didn't get to them, but the guy's playing at a level that I haven't been around. I mean, the guy gets downfield and can adjust to the ball like nobody else. So we have to give him more chances. He's averaging 22 yards a catch, I think, which is unheard of. But he's a great player, and we just got to give him the ball more down the field. But overall, I think we're doing a pretty good job of being consistent with our running approach, and the play actions are working good off of them. It's just our third down conversions yesterday were a little bit better. But there are things we can do to get Deshaun more involved, get more catches, more touches.
I was going to ask about that too. He's not a big guy, so do you have to kind of balance durability concerns possibly with needing to get him more involved, or do you just say however many we can get him, we get him?
Yeah, that's about it. You try to come up with some plays that he's a feature guy, and then if they double him or what have you, then you have, you still have some viable options with the guys that we have. That's the beauty of it. We have some really talented receivers, obviously. We just got to do a better job getting the ball to them and mixing up the run and pass. But overall, offensively, I think you see our talent. We have some great talented skill guys. We still want to run the ball with Alfred. We just got to get our quarterbacks playing at a consistent level, and things will be good.
With Deshaun, have you learned anything? I mean, you knew his speed and all that, but have you learned anything about him as even just a playmaker or a deep guy that maybe you didn't see before that kind of sets him apart in addition to the speed?
No, I think that what we've seen is what we've gotten, a dynamic playmaker. That's why as soon as he came available, we went after him full throttle. He's been a great guy in the locker room, no problems. We bicker here and there on the practice field and in the meeting time, but we do that with everybody. But he's been outstanding. He runs his routes excellent, and quarterbacks all like him, and players seem to like him. I don't have any issues with him, but he's been the player we thought he would be.
Jay, obviously there was a lot of controversy not related to the actual football game yesterday. I'm just curious, as a first-year head coach who maybe is used to a different environment than what we've dealt with here for the last couple of years, how do you handle that in terms of trying to make sure people aren't leaking stuff that could be damaging to the organization? Do you talk to everybody? Do you ignore it? How do you personally handle that?
Well, you try to tell your team that the very first day that what goes on in here stays in here, and you don't know if there's leaks or what's happening, but fact of the matter is, if whatever people want to write about, it's their right to write whatever they want, but we just got to make sure that we stay together and don't pick sides and believe everything that we read, because some of those reports are just false. They're just outright false, and we just can't let them get to us. We have a lot of young team. We have some fragile egos here that, you guys are young guys trying their best, and they read in the paper that nobody likes them, and they're alienated and blasey. It just doesn't seem right. But as a football player, as an NFL football player playing here, you have to expect it. And I said all along that a quarterback's number one trait that he has to have, or any football player's trait that he has to have, is you got to be thick-skinned, and you have to be tough-minded, tough-willed, and accept the good and the bad equally. So, we just can't let that get to us. Big thing is we can't let anything tear the locker room apart. We got to stick together, and I think our guys have done that so far.
You have the practice tomorrow, then they'll have a break. What kind of instruction or message do you send them off with as they head off to the bye?
Well, enjoy their time off, get their minds right and their bodies right, and get ready for the last 7 games to really compete their butts off, man. That's all there is to it. You know, I wish we didn't have a bye this week. I wish we could play tomorrow, to be honest with you, the way we played that game and left one out there. But it is what it is. But I think sometimes getting away for 4 or 5 days will be good for them, get their families, and really think what's important from a football standpoint and come back here and get ready to compete, because we still have a lot to play for. And whether it's for the playoffs, whether it's for the Super Bowl, whatever, we're playing for the Washington Redskins and the city here, and we're going to go out and compete, and we're going to go out fighting, that's for sure.
I was going to say, just piggybacking on what Chris said, between the bus wreck, the protests, the reports, RG3's returning, you must have felt like you had the full NFL Redskins experience yesterday as a coach. Is that part of, I guess that's part of the deal, obviously, but how challenging is it to focus? You want to review tape and coach your team, and there's all this stuff going on. How do you?
Yeah, from a mental standpoint, you want your team to be thinking about the Minnesota Vikings, period. I want Robert and I want the offense to be thinking about Mike Zimmer's double-A package and his blitz package and how we're going to attack. And I want the defense to be thinking about Teddy Bridgewater and their zone checks and what they have to do, instead of reading tweets about there's locker room separation and whatever, and having bus wrecks and all that stuff, you know. So there was a little bit of things that might have took our mind off the important thing, which is the Minnesota Vikings, but we can't let that be an excuse. We have to make sure that we control what we control and play the game of football when it's time to play. And we just didn't play good enough the other day. No matter what's written about us, no matter what's said about us, we just got to go out and play. Thanks, Coach. All right.